After 68 years on this earth, I thought I'd seen it all. Raised 3 kids through measles and math tests, buried a husband I loved for 42 years, and learned to live alone in the house where we'd carved our initials into the back porch railing. But last Tuesday afternoon, standing in my daughter's mudroom with melting snow pooling around my boots, I heard something that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Let me back up a bit. It was one of those February days in Michigan where the cold just seeps into your bones and won't let go. I'd spent the morning at my weekly bridge club. Me, Dorothy, Susan, and Mary Ellen. Same as every Tuesday for the past 12 years. We meet at the library on Maple Street, drink terrible coffee from styrofoam cups, and pretend we're there for the cards instead of the gossip. That particular morning, Dorothy mentioned she'd seen my daughter Emma at the grocery store the day before, looking tired and thin. Now Dorothy's got a flair for the dramatic. She once called 911 because a raccoon knocked over her trash can, but something in her voice stuck with me. Emma's my middle child, 39 now, with 2 kids of her own. She married Kevin 12 years ago, a decent man who works in it and coaches their son's soccer team. They live in a nice ranch-style home about 20 minutes from me, the kind of neighborhood where people actually wave at each other and kids still ride bikes in the street. I usually call before visiting. Emma's always asking me to, says it's just respectful of their time, and she's right, of course. But after bridge club, I found myself driving past the turnoff to my house and heading toward hers instead. I told myself I was just being a concerned mother. I had a perfectly good excuse, too. I'd made my famous apple crumb cake the night before, Emma's favorite since she was 7 years old. The cake sat on the passenger seat in its glass carrier as I pulled into their driveway at 2:15. Kevin's car wasn't there. He usually worked until 6. But Emma's silver Honda was parked in its usual spot. The kids would still be at school. Jake in 4th grade, Lily in 2nd. I grabbed the cake in my purse, carefully navigating the icy walkway they really needed to salt better, and let myself in through the side door. Yes, I still have a key. Emma gave it to me for emergencies, and in my mind, a mother's worry counts as emergency adjacent. "Emma, honey, it's Mom," I called out, stomping the snow off my boots in the mudroom. No answer. The house had that quiet, lived-in feeling. Dishes in the sink, a basket of unfolded laundry on the couch, one of Lily's art projects drying on the kitchen table. Normal chaos. Normal life. I was about to call out again when I heard Emma's voice coming from upstairs. She was on the phone, I realized. The old farmhouse-style layout meant sound traveled easily from the 2nd floor down through the stairwell. I should have announced myself louder. I should have walked back out and called her cell. I should have done a lot of things differently, but I didn't. Instead, I stood there in the mudroom still holding that damn cake and listened to my daughter's voice crack with emotion as she said, "I can't keep doing this, Jennifer. I'm exhausted. Some days I look at my kids and feel nothing, just this horrible, empty nothing." My heart stopped. Jennifer was Emma's college roommate, now living in Oregon. They talked every couple of weeks, usually while Emma meal prepped on Sunday afternoons. "The medication isn't working," Emma continued, her voice thick with tears I could hear from 20 feet away. "Dr. Patterson wants to try something new, but I'm scared. What if nothing helps? What if I'm just broken?" I set the cake down on the dryer as quietly as I could, my hands shaking. "Kevin tries," Emma said. "He really does, but he doesn't understand. He thinks I can just snap out of it, lick. Depression is a choice I'm making. And Mom," her voice caught. "Mom would be so disappointed if she knew. She's always been so strong, so capable. She raised 3 of us practically alone after Dad got sick. She never complained, never fell apart. How can I tell her that I can barely get out of bed some mornings? That I have to force myself to smile when Jake shows me his spelling test?" I pressed my palm against my mouth to keep from making a sound. "I feel like I'm failing everyone," Emma whispered. "My kids deserve better. Kevin deserves better. Mom deserves a daughter who has her life together." There was a long pause. Jennifer must have been talking, and then Emma said, "No, I can't tell her. Please don't suggest it again. She's been through enough. Dad's death almost destroyed her, but she kept going. She didn't fall apart. She just kept going. I can't be the daughter who can't handle normal life." I stood in that mudroom for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The melted snow from my boots had formed a small puddle that was seeping toward the kitchen. Emma's voice had moved away, maybe into her bedroom, and I couldn't hear the words anymore, just the soft murmur of conversation. My daughter was drowning, and she'd been hiding it from me. How had I not seen it? All those times she'd said she was just tired or coming down with something, the canceled Sunday dinners, the way she'd started wearing her hair in that messy bun when Emma had always been so particular about her appearance, the forced brightness in her voice when I called. I'd been so busy being the strong grandmother, the independent widow who didn't burden her children with needs or emotions, that I'd made my own daughter feel like she couldn't be human with me. My husband Tom used to say I had a poker face that could win tournaments. After he died, a heart attack at 63, sudden and cruel, I'd made a choice. I wouldn't fall apart. I wouldn't be the grieving widow who needed constant care and attention. I'd show my kids that life goes on, that strength was possible, that you could survive loss and still function. But what Emma heard in my strength was judgment. What she saw in my survival was expectation. I quietly picked up the cake and slipped back out the side door, easing it closed with barely a click. In my car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel, watching the house where my daughter was suffering in silence because she thought I wouldn't understand. The drive home was a blur. I kept seeing her at 7 years old, crying because she'd struck out in kickball, and me telling her, winners get back up and try again. I saw her at 16, devastated over a breakup, and me saying, you're stronger than this, don't let a boy define you. I saw her at 25, stressed about graduate school applications, and me reminding her that our family doesn't quit. Every piece of advice I'd meant as encouragement had become a brick in a wall between us. At home, I put the cake on my kitchen counter and stared at it. Then I did something I hadn't done since Tom's funeral. I sat down at my kitchen table, put my head in my hands, and cried. I cried for my daughter who thought she had to be perfect. I cried for the years of pain she'd hidden. I cried for the grandmother I'd been. Present but somehow absent, strong but somehow distant. When I finally stopped, the winter sun was setting, painting my kitchen in shades of orange and pink. My phone sat on the table beside me. I picked it up, opened my messages to Emma, and started typing. Then I stopped, deleted it. Started again. This wasn't something you could fix with a text message. I looked at the calendar on my refrigerator. Tomorrow was Wednesday. Emma dropped the kids at school at 8:30, then usually grabbed coffee before heading to her part-time job at the accounting firm. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I should have done years ago. But sitting air in my quiet kitchen, I wondered, when did I become the kind of mother a daughter couldn't confide in? And more importantly, could I find the courage to stop being strong long enough to show Emma that it's okay to fall apart sometimes? Because maybe that's what she needed to see. Not a mother who survived everything, but a mother who was human enough to understand that sometimes surviving isn't the same as living. I reached for my phone again and opened a new note. At the top I wrote, things I need to tell Emma tomorrow. But as my fingers hovered over the screen, I realized I had no idea where to begin.